Have you ever found yourself in sudden darkness, scrambling for a flashlight or your phone, wondering how long you'll be off the grid? It's a jarring moment, right? With today's elevated risks of attacks on critical infrastructure, blackouts can happen more unexpectedly than ever, whether it's severe weather, wildfires, grid malfunctions, or even intentional sabotage. In those frantic first minutes, the decisions you make can either keep you safe or turn a tough situation into a serious problem. That's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the biggest mistakes people make when the power cuts out and show you exactly how to avoid them so you can stay calm and in control, no matter how long the lights stay off. If you stick around, you'll learn about generator safety, how to handle food and water, simple ways to maintain illumination without sparking a fire, tips for keeping your home secure, and how to plan for long-term outages. I'll also cover some creative, less obvious strategies that can really save you time, money, and stress. And before we dive in, go ahead and sign up for my newsletter to receive my free 35-page guide called Surviving Power Grid Failure. You'll find a sign-up link and more details in the description. Also, be sure to check out the tagged products listed in this video. They can really help you get prepared. Let's jump in and see how to handle a blackout without falling into the traps so many people do. Mistake number 1, using generators or alternative power sources unsafely. One of the first things folks rush to set up during a blackout is a generator. It's a logical move. You can keep your freezer cold, run a fan or heater, maybe even power up some lights or a TV if you have enough wattage. But doing it wrong can turn a lifesaver into a serious hazard. The biggest danger that often gets overlooked is carbon monoxide poisoning. A generator produces exhaust full of carbon monoxide, an invisible gas that can build up to lethal levels if it's trapped in enclosed or partially enclosed spaces. People have made the mistake of setting their generator in a garage with the door cracked open or on a covered porch to keep it out of the rain. But even in those scenarios, there's not enough airflow to vent carbon monoxide safely. That's why you always want the unit outdoors, placed far from doors, windows, and vents. Many experts recommend a minimum of 20 feet. Even then, pay attention to which direction the wind or breeze is blowing because you don't want fumes drifting back into your home. If you're concerned about rain, you can invest in a special generator tent or build a structure that's open and well ventilated on all sides. Another big no-no is called backfeeding. This is when someone plugs a generator into a standard home outlet, hoping to energize their entire house. Not only can this ruin your wiring and appliances, but the electricity can flow backward into the grid, putting utility workers in harm's way. If you want to power certain circuits in your home, the safe option is installing a transfer switch. It's a device an electrician puts in that isolates your house's electrical system from the grid so you can run your appliances without endangering anyone. Yes, it costs money and requires some planning, but it's the right way to do it. Fuel storage can also become an issue. Gas stations often shut down or get overwhelmed when large-scale blackouts happen. If you're serious about generator use, you might want to keep a stash of fuel on hand, stored properly in approved containers, and add fuel stabilizers if you're not going to use that fuel within a few months. Also, generators need routine maintenance, changing the oil, checking air filters, making sure spark plugs are in good condition. The last thing you need is to roll out your generator in the middle of a crisis and realize it won't start. Noise is another aspect to think about. Generators can be very loud, and if the entire neighborhood is dark, that noise can draw attention from people who might want to borrow or even steal your power source. Consider short run times rather than running it around the clock. A few hours of generator use can keep your fridge cold and your devices charged while saving fuel and reducing noise pollution. For smaller electronics or essentials, solar-powered battery stations can be a game changer. They're quiet, produce no fumes, and don't require you to stockpile fuel. Of course, they have limitations when it comes to bigger appliances, but if you only need to charge phones, lights, or certain medical devices, they're worth exploring. Above all, respect the capability and the risks that come with generators. A well-maintained, properly ventilated setup can be a lifesaver. A poorly managed one can invite carbon monoxide poisoning, electrical hazards, or unwanted attention. Keep these things in mind and you'll already be ahead of the curve when the lights go out. Mistake number 2, improper food storage and handling. When the power goes off, your fridge and freezer become ticking clocks. An unopened fridge can keep cool for about 4 hours, and a full freezer can maintain safe temperatures for around 48 hours, if you don't open them. People often make the mistake of opening their fridge or freezer repeatedly, letting all that valuable cold air escape. Opening it once to grab a few items is one thing, but going back and forth for drinks or snacks can cut those survival times drastically. If you know a storm is coming, or you have some warning that the grid might fail, freezing water in containers a few days beforehand can extend the life of your food. Those large blocks of ice keep the internal temperature lower, and as they melt, you've also got some extra drinking water. A cooler with plenty of ice can serve as temporary cold storage once your fridge starts warming up. Keep a thermometer in your fridge, freezer, and coolers, so you're never guessing about whether the temperature has crept into the danger zone. Once things go above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, certain foods can become breeding grounds for bacteria. It's definitely better to toss questionable perishables than risk a foodborne illness, when medical facilities might also be strained by the blackout. Cooking can also pose a challenge without electricity. Some people have gas stoves that still work, but most modern gas ranges need an electric ignition. A camping stove or grill can fill the gap, but only use them outdoors. Burning charcoal or propane inside the house can generate carbon monoxide just as easily as a generator does. If you've got a yard, that's not a big deal. Just step outside and cook safely. If you're in an apartment, it's trickier. You might rely on canned or shelf-stable foods that don't need heating. It's good to have a mix of quick-cooked meals and no-cook meals in your pantry just in case. If you do use a portable stove indoors, be extremely aware of ventilation. Open a window, use a carbon monoxide detector with batteries, and keep a close eye on flames. Another part of handling food safely is understanding what to preserve and how. While you might not have time for elaborate methods like canning during a blackout, some forms of quick pickling or fermenting can salvage vegetables before they go bad. In drier climates, a pot-and-pot evaporative cooler can keep produce from spoiling for a bit longer than it would at room temperature. Although you probably won't be able to replicate a fully functional fridge, you can at least slow down spoilage. Above all, don't underestimate how fast your food can spoil, and don't gamble with questionable smells or appearances. A blackout is stressful enough without you or a family member getting seriously ill from something you ate. If something seems off, it's safer to throw it away. That's why a well-stocked pantry of non-perishables, coupled with a plan for how you'll cook or not cook, is essential for getting through a blackout without going hungry or getting sick. Mistake number 3, overlooking fire safety and illumination risks. In the midst of a blackout, we naturally crave light. It's dark. Maybe you're feeling uneasy, so you start digging around for candles or oil lamps. These can be fine if handled with real care. The problem is that an open flame in a house that might be cluttered or full of anxious people and pets can turn into a house fire in seconds. Candles tip over. Someone forgets to blow them out before bedtime. Kids and pets bump into them. All of these lead to common disasters during blackouts. A much safer approach is to invest in good battery-powered or solar-powered LED lanterns and flashlights. A single headlamp can free up your hands while letting you see exactly where you're going. Some lanterns crank up or charge via small solar panels, so you're not constantly hunting for fresh batteries. Glow sticks may not offer tons of brightness, but they can mark out pathways, doorknobs, or a child's sleeping area, helping everyone navigate more safely. Even a small camping lantern that runs off AAA or AA batteries can illuminate a space well enough to keep everyone comfortable. If you must use candles, place them on stable surfaces, away from fabrics, papers, or anything flammable. The same goes for oil lamps. Make sure you're using them in a space where kids or pets can't get close. You should also have a fire extinguisher within reach. That's always a good rule of thumb, but it's especially critical when using any form of open flame to light your home. Then there's the issue of heat if you're in a cold climate. People often turn to space heaters that use propane or kerosene, which can be dangerous indoors unless they're specifically rated for indoor use and you follow all the ventilation requirements. Wood-burning stoves can be a great backup source of heat and a way to cook, but only if your chimney is in good shape and you understand how to use the stove safely. If you're not well practiced in that, a blackout is the worst time to learn the basics. A better approach is to do regular dry runs in less stressful times. Combining multiple small lights can help reduce the risk of a single open flame. Spread out battery-powered lanterns or flashlights so everyone has access to some form of illumination. Candles might feel cozy, but if you can, skip them or keep them to an absolute minimum. The last thing you want is to trade one emergency, a blackout, for another, a house fire. With a little planning, you can have plenty of safe light sources that let you see what you're doing without putting your family in danger. Mistake number 4, neglecting water needs and sanitation. We think a lot about electricity going out, but we don't always connect that to water. Yet most water treatment and distribution systems require power. If the local utility can't run pumps, the water pressure may drop or stop altogether. And if you're on a well, you need electricity to pump that water unless you have a manual pump installed. That's why it's vital to store water or have a plan to collect and purify it. The general guideline is at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and basic hygiene. 3 days is the bare minimum, but going for a week or more is wiser, especially if you live somewhere prone to hurricanes, ice storms, or other events that can knock out utilities for extended stretches. Storing water in large containers or sealed bottles in a garage or basement is one option. Rotating your stored water every 6 to 12 months keeps it from getting stale or contaminated. If you're in a pinch, you can use rain barrels if it's permitted in your area, but always purify rainwater before drinking it. Boiling is straightforward if you have a stove or grill, but remember that it uses up fuel. Commercial filters or portable purification systems can also remove bacteria and parasites. If you can't boil or filter, you might try water purification tablets or unscented bleach, carefully following the correct ratio to make water safe for consumption. Sanitation is just as important. If your toilet can't flush, it can get nasty fast. One workaround is the bucket toilet line, a 5-gallon bucket with sturdy garbage bags. Add a layer of absorbent material like kitty litter or sawdust and secure the lid. You don't want that stench inside, so if possible, keep this system in a separate area. Dispose of used bags in a safe manner until trash pickup resumes. For hand washing, a simple station can be created with a large jug of water that has a spigot, a bar of soap, and a catch basin for runoff. This prevents everyone from wasting water washing hands under a fully open tap, which you may not even have if the pipes aren't running. Without decent sanitation, diseases can spread quickly. A minor issue, like a brief stomach bug, can become a huge deal if it passes through everyone in the household and you don't have enough resources to cope. With careful water storage and sanitation planning, you can avoid adding that crisis to your list of blackout woes. Mistake number 5, ignoring security and situational awareness. Blackouts often bring out the best in neighbors who band together, but they can also create opportunities for break-ins and theft. Streetlights are out, alarm systems might not be functional, and in some cases, desperation can push people into criminal acts. One major mistake is to assume your normal security routine still applies. If you rely on well-lit exteriors, you may need solar or battery-powered lights to serve the same role during an outage. If your window and door alarms don't have battery backups, they might not work at all. Lock your doors and windows, even if you're at home. Reinforce your main entry points if you can. Simple fixes like longer screws in the door hinge and strike plate can make it harder for someone to kick in a door. Door jammers or bars can add another layer of protection. If you have a security camera system, see if it can run on backup power or if at least one camera is battery powered or solar charged. Even a fake camera or security sign can deter some people. Noise discipline is another factor. If you're the only house with a loud generator running all night, you might attract attention from those who want to benefit from your resources. That's why running it on a schedule and building some form of a sound barrier, while still allowing the exhaust to safely vent, can reduce how obvious your setup is. The same goes for bright lights that make your home look fully powered. Sometimes it's better to keep illumination modest and inside the house, with window coverings blocking the glow. Keep communication lines open with neighbors if you trust them. A simple text group or walkie-talkie arrangement can help everyone feel safer. Plus, you can share intel about what's happening locally, like if the water is still running in certain parts of the neighborhood or if a store nearby has opened its doors with a generator. Working together, you can watch for suspicious activity and help each other out with supplies if needed, which fosters goodwill and a sense of community. This tends to reduce the likelihood of desperate or criminal behavior in the first place. Keep your valuables out of sight. A blackout might tempt you to store gasoline cans, extra batteries, or expensive tools in plain view. But those items can be gold for someone else. Tuck them away, maybe under lock and key in a shed, so you're not advertising that you're well prepared. This doesn't mean being paranoid. It's just good sense to avoid flaunting resources that others may not have. Ultimately, being aware of your surroundings, staying connected with trusted neighbors, and practicing good security measures can make a huge difference in how well you ride out a widespread outage. Mistake number 6, failing to plan for extended blackouts. A lot of folks assume a blackout will last a few hours or maybe a day, but in extreme conditions, the power could be out for much longer. That's where the final major mistake comes in, failing to plan for extended outages. If you treat every blackout like it's a brief inconvenience, you can be caught off guard when it stretches beyond your short-term supplies and comfort zone. Start by building a reasonable stockpile of food and water. Go beyond the bare minimum 3 days. Many experienced preppers aim for 2 weeks or more. This might sound like overkill, but consider places that have endured hurricanes or ice storms, where it took over a week just for crews to get roads clear, let alone restore power. You don't need to drop thousands of dollars at once. You can gradually build your supply, watching for sales on canned foods, pasta, beans, rice, and freeze-dried meals. Then rotate them, using the older items in everyday cooking so nothing expires. If you or someone in your family depends on medications, especially those that need refrigeration, talk to your doctor about what happens if you lose power for several days. Are there backup battery packs, portable coolers, or alternative medication options? How many days' worth of backup meds can you keep on hand? Addressing these medical dependencies is crucial because it can literally be a matter of life or death if the blackout drags on. Mental well-being also matters. The stress of a prolonged power failure, coupled with boredom and uncertainty, can wear people down. Having a plan for entertainment that doesn't rely on electricity can help. Board games, card games, puzzles, and books can keep everyone occupied. Setting up routines for cooking, cleaning, and security checks is another way to maintain a sense of normalcy. This is especially important if you have kids because structure helps them feel safer and more secure in uncertain times. Pets and other animals are another consideration. Stock up on pet food just like you would on human food, and think about how you'll handle their water and sanitation needs if you can't get to a store or if the tap runs dry. It's easy to overlook these details when everything is normal, but once the lights go out, you'll be glad you've got a plan in place. Extended outages test all aspects of preparedness, so walking through what-if scenarios in your head, or even practicing drills, can highlight any gaps before a real crisis occurs. If your area is prone to frequent outages or extreme weather, you might decide to invest in bigger, more permanent solutions like a whole house generator, solar panels with battery storage, or even a wood stove for heating and cooking. That way, you're not just scraping by. You're able to function at a fairly comfortable level. Whatever you decide, keep in mind that any equipment you buy needs regular maintenance and test runs. An expensive generator that never gets checked might fail you at the worst possible time. A stack of freeze-dried food you've never actually tasted might prove unpalatable or require more water than you expected. The more you practice using your supplies, the better prepared you'll be when it counts. We've covered a lot today, from generator safety to food storage, illumination without open flames, water and sanitation strategies, how to keep your home secure, and why long-term planning is critical. Whether you live in a hurricane zone, a region with harsh winters, or a generally stable area that experiences the occasional power outage, understanding these pitfalls and preparing for them can make a night and day difference when the grid actually goes down. I hope this video helps you feel more confident and motivated to take some practical steps now, instead of waiting until you're stumbling around in the dark. If you found this helpful, be sure to sign up for my newsletter so you can grab your free guide, Surviving Power Grid Failure. It's packed with more tips and detailed strategies to see you through all kinds of electrical emergencies. And don't forget to check out the tagged products. They're curated to help you shore up any weaknesses in your blackout preparedness plan. Thanks so much for watching and for being proactive about your own safety and comfort. With a little knowledge and some careful planning, you can weather almost any outage without it becoming a disaster. Stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you next time.